Hello, fellow leaders, and welcome to the Military Leader Podcast, bringing you conversations with today's most successful leaders. I am Andrew Stedman, happy to be joining you on video here with my good friend, longtime friend, and one of the most powerful, energetic, inspiring, engaging, and just straight up everything you can think of, Noble Gibbens. Noble, welcome to the Military Leader Podcast.
Drew Dini, what's up, bro? Thanks for having me, man. This is amazing.
It is.
I'm shocked at like the moons aligned and like you've got generals and ballers and then you got Noble. This is great.
This is it. No, it's awesome, and thank you for taking the time. Listen, and for the audience here, there's no need to write down an introduction because Noble and I go way back. So Noble here is a father first, a Christian, a West Point graduate. Did his time in the Army in the 82nd Airborne down at Fort Bragg. And then went into business for himself and has been an entrepreneur of many businesses, executive coach, personal coach, speaker, an inspiration to literally thousands of people. And what I credit, and Noble, this is, just opening up a little bit to the audience here, like what I credit you with in my life is injecting into me at an early leader age, and I was about 23 when we met. This idea of how important the self development is, and how important it is to infuse yourself with so many different resources and people, and to be discerning and deliberate and intentional about that, because as you've said many times, you'll be the product of what you surround yourself with, right? And so I learned that at such an early age because of you, and have. I think it set a solid foundation. So I just got to tell you personally, like, thank you for speaking into my life as a leader, and as a man. And I appreciate you being here, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. It's been a blessing to be, friends with you. And, there's a great verse in the Bible, Proverbs 27:17 is iron sharpens iron. So Drew Dini sharpens Big Poppy.
I don't think that's verbatim, man.
That's the NIV Noble's International version right there, brother.
Right. That's awesome. Well, I want to listen. This is a free flowing conversation here, and every time you and I have gotten together, I've walked away better for it. I'm inspired by people who can elevate the conversation and care about getting something out of the experience, and not just talking about whether it's the latest football game or whether it's whatever. Like, I walk away from conversations. I prefer to walk away from conversations knowing that I'm changed in some way, and you've always done that. So this will be no different. I am sure. But I wanted to give the audience here a little perspective about your journey as a leader. I mean, even, we're going to talk about childhood and all that, but really, like, West Point on, like, what has shaped you as a leader, and what have you gotten into from groups and people to resources that has taken you to the point where you are today?
I think you're intentionally leaving out the childhood, because that has a tremendous impact on everybody's leadership. But so from West Point on, I graduated at the bottom third of my class. I majored in cooperation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right.
So by God's grace, man, I was able to graduate. I've got some incredible classmates that it was definitely a team effort to help. I was the guy that in the group projects, I would be the guy that went and got the food for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you right there.
Or I was the typer. I was either the typer or the guy that went and got the food. So
yeah. The dean's other list. Yeah.
So West Point, and I was infantry. I went infantry and airborne school, ranger school, jump master school, that stuff. And like you said, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, 2nd Brigade, 1st 325. And was blessed, man, to have some amazing leaders. And it's been really interesting because I keep in touch with a lot of junior military leaders, right? So lieutenants, captains, and honestly enlisted NCOs. I've got friends at every rank in the military, up to I've got even a classmate of ours who's a general now,
Oh,
Scott Nauman, incredible guy. And
oh yeah.
one of the things that that again, I've been blessed with is everyone, starting from my first company commander, my first battalion commander, my first brigade commander, all are rock star leaders. So my first company commander is a 1 or 2 star now. My first battalion commander was the vice chief of staff of the Army, eventually, became the vice chief of staff of the Army, General Allen. And then my first brigade commander, well, he retired as an 06, but shortly after I had a Colonel Rodriguez, who was not, since then, I think Lieutenant General or General.
No, he was General. Yeah, commanded AFRICOM.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, big hot rod Rodriguez, Dave Rodriguez. Super dude. I was his brigade air. And man, it was, oh my goodness, man, that guy, amazing. He knew how to chew you out and make you feel good about it.
Yeah, right.
And then I had Colonel Scaparrotti. I was his brigade air as well, and since again, General. So anyway, and then when I was a staff puke at 18th Airborne Corps for a hot minute, had a chance to interview Colonel Petraeus at the time on leadership and just his,
now wait a minute now. So you're doing interviews as an officer.
I was doing interviews at West Point, bro. I was interviewing.
All right. So tell me where that comes from then, because it's a little bit weird. I think it's a little bit odd for someone to think about saying, wait a second, now let me go and find out about this leader and go ask him. Can you unpack that for a second?
Yeah. So now I'm gonna go back, bro. I'm going back old school. I'm taking us back to Simon and Garfunkel days, bro. I'm taking us back to Cool Bo D days, little ZZ Top days, bro. So a little Metallica here. So growing up, so my mom, so my dad was a ER doctor, emergency room physician, and my mom was a 4'10" little Mexican lady, and so as a kid we would pick up these kids from the children's home, little local children's home that were from the gangs from Chicago and Rockford and these inner city gangs that, got pushed out of these foster homes and children's homes and stuff. And we'd pick them up. And my mom would say, she'd do a little drug deal with us and say, hey, look, you guys, we will go hit DQ. You know what I'm saying? Not meaning disqualified, but Dairy Queen, what? Go a little Dairy Queen after church if you guys take a page of notes. You want to talk about incentives, bro.
That's motivation.
I don't know if you ever heard about the love languages, Drew Dini, but one of my love languages is acts of culinary service. You know what I'm saying? So, bro, you want to talk about inspiring a learner, man. I was a note-taking machine, man. I was every word, every phrase, man. I was getting the commas, the pauses, man. I was a note-taking machine.
What a good trick. That's great.
Oh, talk about incentive, man, motivation, right? And so that was all the way through junior high. And then in high school, my dad, again, ER doc, what he would do is, so he'd come home from these 24, 48, 72-hour shifts, and he would study for 2 hours straight after he got back off these shifts of his medical stuff, and then he'd memorize, books of the Bible and stuff. And so, I would just watch this stuff, and he's like, hey, Noble, listen, man, excuse me, you always want to make sure you're taking notes and you're coming up with a list of stuff. And then, so that was another thing that was modeled for me. And then he would always, so I still remember this, especially in high school, he would start asking me these life questions. Like, well, Noble, what do you think the meaning of life is? I'm like, Dad, I just hit puberty, bro. Like, I have no idea. Like, I just learned how to drive, and I got a basketball game this weekend. Like, I have no meaning of life. What are you talking about? And like, well, what do you think about God? And what do you think about, just faith and just all these big, giant, deep questions. And he genuinely wanted to know. He was genuinely curious. And I'm like, wow, like he just modeled for me this intellectual curiosity that here he's got this massive brain. He literally a genius. He took some time off in med school because he got burnt out at med school. when he took his break, he went and got his pharmacy degree to, on his downtime.
Uh-huh.
And then once he's got his pharmacy degree, then he finished up med school. Right. So just literally a genius guy.
Yeah.
And just this intellectual curiosity, always like, well, what about this? And well, this doesn't work. Well, how can we fix it? Right. So just, I got to see this as a kid. And so both, my mom, with the note taking as a kid, my dad with the intellectual curiosity, that combined, when I hit West Point, like, I was like, well, crap, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to spell leadership, man. Like, let me ask these NCOs that are been leading for 15, 20 years. Let me ask these officers who have been leading for 15, 20 years. So, dude, I was interviewing people at West Point, like.
So you identified, so you felt like you had a knowledge or an experience or kind of a talent gap, and you dove into it with these skills that you learned as a kid.
100%. I mean, dude, I was terrified to be a lieutenant, right? I was terrified, like, man, I'm going to be an infantry platoon leader leading 40 dudes, potentially in combat, two-way live fire range. And dude, I don't know beans from buckshot. Like, I want to make sure that I am the most prepared to lead somebody else's son and or daughter in combat. Like, I want to get my stuff together. You know what I mean? Right, and I want to come in, extracting as much wisdom and experience from these amazing leaders that I'm literally surrounded by in college. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you started asking around at West Point, and then even on into lieutenant and captain days, you were looking around for inspiring leaders. And would you go direct fire and be like, hey, sir, I want to talk to you. I want to ask you questions.
Absolutely. That's right. Colonel Petraeus, hey, sir, can I take 15 minutes, 20 minutes of your time max? Mm-hmm. I'll have 10 questions for you. If we get to 10, great. If we get to 2, great. I will not waste your time. I will be taking mad copious notes. Can I get on your calendar? Do you have 20 minutes of white space?
Okay.
And it was either yes or no. And, when they saw the look of my eyeballs and like, I'm coming with questions, I got questions right now, but I'll wait until we're scheduled. Like, they knew I wasn't messing around. You know what I mean? Like, I was serious.
That thought frightens people, by the way. I mean,
what are you talking about?
That boldness, like to walk up to a senior leader and say, can I take some of your time? I want to ask, I mean, that's that intimidation here. We can get to this, and something I'm going to get to talk with Michael Bungay-Stanier about, in the coaching habit. But that, like, I mean, wearing the rank on the chest, you got the eagle, the star. I mean, that is intimidating for people sometimes to break through. But did you?
Hey, check this out. Listen, I'm 2.5 years into jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And listen, I didn't understand the protocol, right? I've been an entrepreneur for 20 some years. There's this protocol in jiu-jitsu. Like, if you're a white belt, like, people will pick to roll with you. You don't just, like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know this. I haven't read like the jiu-jitsu Gracie manual on how to roll or whatever. Right. And so, dude, so this is how I did it. Brand new. Now, this is, again, I just started a few years ago, so this wasn't like 20 some years ago, but because of my hunger and passion for learning and growth and all this kind of stuff, it's so funny, man. White belt, I literally have I didn't wrestle. I did Taekwondo, but that's nothing like jiu-jitsu. Anyway, I would go up to the biggest, baddest dudes, black belts. Hey, sir. Hey, can we roll? Right? You're not supposed to do that. But I didn't know, right? No one briefed me. And they're like, well, okay. They would humor me. But it's like, dude, like, I want the skinny. There's a great chapter, Proverbs chapter 2 or Proverbs chapter 4, where it talked about pursuing wisdom as if you're pursuing hidden treasure, right? How am I going to go after hidden treasure? I'm going after it, right? And actually the cool thing is what's one of the greatest things to pursue is wisdom, right? Big Solomon, Ranger Solomon from back in the old school days, when God said, did the old genie in the bottle, pulled a little Aladdin on him, whiz bang, what do you want to be? What do you want to have? He could have said Rolls Royce, Wraith, you know what I mean? He could have said Airborne Ranger of the planet. No, he said, I want wisdom.
Wisdom, yeah.
Right? Boom. And so for me, I'm painfully aware of all the stuff that I don't know. I mean, think about how much stuff is out there about leadership,
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
pick a topic. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. So two things that makes me think about. First, when we're here at the National Training Center, going through and brigades come down and they do their training. Some of the advice and coaching we give the leaders ahead of time is to tell them. And really, General Kaufman, who was on the podcast the first season, he really brought this up. He says, find those weaknesses, those talent, those knowledge gaps, and embrace them, right? Like attack them. You don't know how to do a combined arms breach, go. Like you've never been, you've never done a defense, maybe as a platoon leader, company commander, dig in, figure out the doctrine, get the reps with your staff and embrace it instead of kind of shying away from it. Fantastic advice. But secondly, like, okay, so for this, and we're gonna circle back eventually, but there's some good stuff here. So it kind of goes into the mentorship piece. Did you ever have a leader, a senior leader who was like, no, I'm not going to answer your questions. Like, I'm not going to talk about that.
Great question. And so, no, what I did get was, I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, hey, Noble, I'm absolutely willing to sit down with you, but like 3 months from now.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? So, which is one of my beefs of the military, of the Army. If you are fortunate, and now again, I was in 20 years ago, so this may have all changed. Army may be gangster on mentorship right now, but I doubt it. If you were fortunate to have an officer or an NCO who intentionally took you under their wing to legit mentor you, it was one in a million,
mm-hmm. Okay.
right?
Okay.
Or unless you pursued, right? So now again, here's the caveat. My battalion commander, again, amazing guy, amazing leader, but and he did an OPD, professional development, once a quarter. Man, I would have loved to get some more time with him, but again, battalion commanders, not a whole lot of free time, not sitting around playing solitaire. Fortunately, my company commander, we had a daily morning OPD, if you will, with our company commander. And as a learner, man, I ate that up. I hate, I'm not a morning guy, so I hated getting up at zero dark ridiculous, but that's what you do in the military. But dude, the wisdom that I was getting from this captain was trumped my like, dude, I don't want to be up this early, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really cool. So what I did get sometimes was, hey man, I'm too busy. I don't have that kind of time, but maybe in the next quarter or something like that. But I never got like, screw you, dude. Why are you wanting to learn more about leadership, right? Because then it's like, are you serious? Like, this is what we do in the Army. Like, what
exactly.
are you talking about?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I've seen similar. I think that speaks to the little bit of the overcoming the fear that people have about reaching up to a more senior, person. I mean, they're ready to invest. They want to invest and give back.
But one thing is, like, I was going to get it from somebody. So if I got denied from my battalion commander or my brigade, like, I'm going to find somebody. There's going to be some colonel, some battalion commander, some sergeant major, some first sergeant out there, some platoon sergeant. Somebody is going to give me time. I'm going to keep knocking on doors until somebody is going to give me time. And then, of course, that's where you start building your leadership file, right? Because here's another thing, too, and I don't want to take this to where you don't want it to go, but a couple things that tremendously impact people's leadership. Your personality tremendously impacts how you view the world, how you view everything. Number one. Number two is your emotional intelligence tremendously impacts how you view the world. And there's a lot of other things too, but just suffice to say, those two things tremendously impact a lot of stuff. So I like to go and get as many different people and ranks as possible to help me fill my leadership puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so leadership puzzle. You're building it. You're a lieutenant. You're a captain. You're kind of making decisions about staying in the military or not, and you're figuring out what it means to really be a leader. You got your platoon leader experience and your staff, and so as you go through this transformation into becoming a junior leader and a more grounded leader, I guess. What are some of the what are some of the, I guess, intellectual or I guess knowledge, gates or circles or pools of stuff that you got into? You mentioned personality, you mentioned emotional intelligence. John Maxwell was big, for folks like us. So what has been that journey?
So I was blessed run into a guy who was really big on development, and personal and professional development. And again, as a learner, that was like crack to me, because like I can't learn enough. Like I'm constantly reading and watching TED Talks and YouTube videos and podcasts and all kind, right? It's, I can't get enough, right? And again, from my childhood. So that opened my door to like, oh snap, because here's the thing, right? So we homeschool with a program called Classical Conversations, and I love it because, and we chose to homeschool because, we're again been entrepreneurs for 20 some years. And it's funny because what homeschooling is to education, entrepreneurship is to business, which is also what's, special operations is to the conventional military.
Okay.
Right? It's all out of the box stuff, right? So, which I love, right? As an entrepreneur, I don't want a box. I don't want a box. I want to build my own deal, right? And so when he exposed me to this whole like world of learning, which just was very fortuitous in my own learning journey as a kid, which I already told you about. I jumped on it. So I started to realize, because here's the thing. Okay, this is what I was going to say about the whole homeschooling piece. So we use this program called Classical Conversations. Well, they use a classical approach to learning, which means we teach with our kid the tools to learn, not what to learn, how to learn.
Okay.
So you think about it from a leader perspective, especially, dude, as we move into, artificial intelligence and all this stuff, dude, it's not like by the time you're sophomore year in college, it's already outdated, right? So the ability to learn and the capacity to learn is more critical than what you actually know right now. And
right.
so that's what the beauty of this classical model. Anyway, so my point is, so let me go back to hit you with something is, you said, to develop your leadership file and your leadership puzzle and all this stuff. Well, here's the thing, dude. One of the things in the classical model, it's called the 5 common topics in the dialectic stage, which is the second stage of learning. Excuse me. One of the parts of this 5 common topics is define your terms. So what is a leader? What does that even mean? What is a good leader? Right? If you went to 10 brigade commanders and said, define leadership, I would almost argue that you're going to have 10 different answers. Because unless, I know the Army's great at indoctrination and stuff like that, but I would argue it's, you'd have 10 different definitions.
Yeah.
And so for me, early on, I was so thankful to get exposed to, StrengthsFinder 2.0.
Yeah.
Personality Plus is another resource that I've been. I know there's Myers-Briggs and all these other fancy and Enneagram and all these fancy things. I just keep it simple. My infantry guy, I like to keep it simple. So Personality Plus, StrengthsFinder. There's a book called Shape, SHAPE, Strengths, Heart, Attitude, Personality, and Experience. Love Languages is another one, is a great tool. So, and what I did was, as a platoon leader, I literally had for every soldier in my platoon, I had a card with all this stuff: their personality, their strengths, their love languages. You know what I mean? And I, because we're all different, and I know we treat everyone like the same, but we're all different people, unique human beings. So I wanted to really tailor my leadership and not just do one size. Say, hey, you guys all need to fit to me. I wanted to get to know these guys on different levels.
Okay, so you use the tools you were reading about and using it to first really assess yourself and expose some things about yourself, but then turn around and use that in your on your team so that you can understand them a little bit better and tailor that leadership experience, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And you said you brush through a very critical point that I missed. That is critical, Drew, is, in my opinion, to be as effective leader as possible. It's critical to grow in the area of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your own, like you said, you call it, I think you should call it knowledge gaps. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What's your personality? What are your love languages? Where's your emotional intelligence at? Right? John Maxwell says, number one responsibility of a leader, identify reality, right? Where are you at on the map? You got to figure out where you're at on the map before you can figure out where you're trying to go.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you're adding these, you're getting exposed to leaders and mentors and adding these resources and having these experiences. And you build and build. So fast forward 18 years. So fast forward 20 years to present day, or to present weeks, as it were. So, and you and I have already talked a little bit about this, but what are you seeing now about the leader you have become, and then how it was formed, and then how that compares to maybe what the roots really may be?
Are you ready? Are you?
I wouldn't have asked unless I knew it was coming.
You're about to take the blue pill, bro. We're about to go Matrix here.
Good.
So here's what's crazy, man. So I have actively, intentionally been pursuing wisdom, and specifically in the area of leadership, for over 2 decades now.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of books, hundreds of interviews, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And here's what's fascinating. Now, this topic I'm about to drop here is not new. It is becoming a hotter and hotter topic.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, and it's all fun and games until it applies to you. So, and it's the topic of emotional intelligence. So dude, I didn't even realize this concept of emotions and feelings existed until probably about 5 years ago. And we started, my awesome wife and I started intentionally working on this stuff 2 to 3 years ago. But I'm not trying to sound naive about what you call it, whatever it is. I don't care. I literally did not even feel that they were cuss words as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
How do you feel about leadership? How do you feel about this OER, or this officer evaluation report? How do you feel about this company X eval? I feel fine.
Do you think you were pursuing like the formula that is leadership, almost like the toolkits, and like what are the things that make up a good leader? Is that
100%?
Yeah.
It was a 100% two-dimensional for me.
Okay.
If I do this, I will get this result.
Yeah.
Right. Totally doing before being. Totally. Did not even consider the concept. And, and I even, man, back in my days, that was the motto, right? That was the motto, be, know, do.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, cheesy army, marketing spiel, whatever. Yeah. Well, now it's like, oh, snap. No, it's who before do. Be before do. Mm-hmm. And, again, it sounds cheesy, sounds warm, fuzzy, but here's the deal. Here is the deal. True or not true, your performance is impacted by a good or a bad leader, however you define those terms. 100%. 100%. Man, I love the infantry until I got to brigade staff, and I had this, I won't get to details in case this dude ever watches this, but this guy, it was like what he cared about was what direction the airplanes flew across the PowerPoint slide. Like hours. Oh, it's the wrong angle. They got to be. And I'm like, am I getting punked right now? Are we seriously spending? Dude, it's 2100. It's 9:00 at night. What am I like? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it's a freaking PowerPoint. I don't think the CG is going to, and if he does, this is the wrong CG, man. You know what I mean? If that CG cares about the color of my slides or what direction the airplanes flow, dude, we have lost our leadership stinking center of mass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I got all off track there. so for me, emotional intelligence. So when I started to work on and become aware of this concept called EQ, emotional intelligence, um, it changed everything, Drew. So it literally took leadership for me from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. I realized, so, and here again, going back to childhood, right? One of the things, so as an executive coach, one of the things I realized is I've realized is, and I'm talking, this is not anecdotal. I'm not talking, I've had 2 clients, I'm talking, 75 to 100 clients from the ages of 16 to nearly 70, from making 30,000 a year to multimillionaires. 100% of adults that I have invested in exhibit behaviors as an adult 100% as a result of their childhood. Now, not all of our behaviors as an adult, but there are some behaviors as an adult that 100% have come from our childhood.
Okay. Directly connected to what we do.
Directly connected. So as a leader, is that good or is that bad? Yeah. Are you even aware of that? Are you even aware of how your childhood is affecting you today as a leader, as a husband, as a father, as a parent, as a brother, sister, uncle, all that stuff, right? Yeah. Are you even aware of how you're being impacted and limited, right? The limiting factors as a result of your childhood. And for me as a leader, I don't want to be a 2-dimensional leader. I want to be a 3-dimensional leader that is as effective as possible at leading, at impacting others in a positive way. And the reality is, here's the reality, Drew Gini. The reality is, la-di-da-di, everybody has feelings and emotions. So why don't we, but you tell me how many leaders in the military are even aware of that facet of leadership. And here's the thing, emotions and feelings impact everybody. But yet we don't.
I mean, it's been a lot of the basis of the recent conversation in recent years on toxic leadership, right? Which now we call counterproductive leadership, is what the Army, calls it. But that's the foundation of that is that people have a bad, workplace culture or experience, and that comes from an emotional side. That doesn't come from a process side. You don't get a toxic environment because a staff process isn't working or a command process isn't working. You get it because a leader is belittling and demeaning and being counterproductive for the experience that everybody wants to have.
That's right. Or they're a narcissistic leader.
Yeah.
Or they're not self-aware, right? There's another book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 that talks about there's 4 aspects of emotional intelligence, and that's just kind of like an intro to emotional intelligence. It's good, but it's kind of an intro to it. And one of those is being self-aware. One of those is being others aware. This is another big one. How many leaders are in military, not military, corporate America, military? How many leaders are even aware of their impact on other people? But it takes self-awareness to even have that conversation with yourself, to even, you know what I mean? How am I impacting you? How am I impacting my peers, my subordinates, my superiors? You know what I mean?
And then to ask, right? And then to say, hey, Noble, like, I've been your leader for about, your commander for 6 months here. What's it like to work for me?
But dude, 100%. But here's the thing though, Drew, you may be able to ask that, but if the current culture is not supportive, they will never tell you the honest answer. Oh, man, Colonel Stedman, you're the most amazing leader. But to their E4 mafia, they're like, that guy's a straight bonehead. So you may have the courage to ask that question as a big cheese Colonel Stedman, but dude, the culture that I came from, there is no way that a junior leader is going to give their superior the actual honest answer to that.
Yeah, that is that hits a vulnerable spot because that happened. I mean, in battalion command, you I thought that I did not a terrible job at asking for feedback, and maybe I was even blind about that. But I was certainly made it clear that I had an open door, would have conversations with anybody in every rank, just about at any time. But then old command climate survey comes around, and you read things that people wouldn't say, to your face, even if you asked them directly. And so that level of insight, it hurts. It hurts, and it could be because it's more truthful, perhaps. Maybe it's what a strain of folks feel in the formation. I think a lot of it represented this area that number one, I had no idea. Nobody exposed me to the issue, which is another point I'll get to in a second. Nobody exposed it to me and let me know, which I would have corrected or reoriented on. But the other thing is I was really let down by the fact that people had this experience while in the unit under my command, and they had a bad experience, and I couldn't and didn't and wasn't able to do anything about it, right? Either because I didn't know, or just because I didn't know my own effect as a leader, right? So they had a bad experience, and I wasn't able to to affect it. But there's a point here too, which is a call to action, really in regards to mutual trust. And I've been having a couple of conversations about this with some peers of mine, and we're identifying this need for not only for leader development down, right? We always know that like the senior develops a junior, like that's the model. I mean, we got that, right? But there's also this development back up the chain, right? Like there's no senior leader development without a pool of junior leaders. And so they are an active, functioning, living, breathing part of that senior leader's development. I mean, I stepped into battalion command, had never been a battalion commander before, right? And so I didn't have all the answers. So those, lieutenants, captains, NCOs were part of my own leader development. And I think junior leaders need to take responsibility for that and actually wear it as a badge of honor to say, I get to be part of this CSM's or colonel's or general's own leader development at his or her level, and be an active and a constructive part of that. And sometimes that means closing the door and saying, hey, sir or ma'am, you said this, it kind of came out like this, and this is how I heard it. And I think you need to know so that you go on to be a better and more effective leader. But that's a responsibility that I think subordinates have as well.
Okay, I just had a conversation with someone else in leadership about this. So I conceptually love what you're saying. There's no doubt, in my opinion, that junior leaders, subordinates, whatever you want to call them, should be a part of a leader's feedback loop.
Yeah.
They should be.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it is the responsibility of the leader to set the culture
100%,
to allow that to happen.
Yeah, okay? Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, because I have played that game before, provided feedback safely, appropriately, professionally, respectfully, and it's because what happens is 9 times out of 9.5 it's immediate defensiveness. And if that's your response, and again, assuming that I did it safely, respectfully, professionally, appropriately, then your immediate response is defensiveness. I'm done. I'm not wasting my time anymore, right? So again, in my opinion, it's a leader's responsibility to set the culture to allow for feedback. Now, you also may, as a leader, in this process of setting up the culture, need to do some coaching and mentoring, some training on what does appropriate, respectful, professional, safe feedback look like, right? And sound like, because I don't think the Army's good at that. I don't think most organizations are good at that.
Yeah, by literally giving them the words and saying, you can give me feedback by using these specific words.
100%, literally a script.
Yeah.
Here's the script. So, and I've got some great things for that too, but that's, so here's something else, Drew, is, you said something that is I feel like a DP, right? A decisive point in this learning feedback mechanism. You said when you first heard it, it hurt. Okay. Why? It's important to do the emotional work to ask yourself, really, truly, what was it about that feedback that hurt? Right? Assuming they didn't punch you in the face. Right? So because there's true, right? The feedback has got to be safe, professional, appropriate, respectful, right? Assuming it's those four things, why did you respond that way, right? And you said, well, you weren't aware of it. Okay, that's one thing. But again, hurt is an emotion. That's not that's an emotion. So assuming that it was delivered appropriately, like for me, and there's a powerful book on something called Crucial. It's called Crucial Conversations. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most powerful books on dealing with conflict, handling conflict, having crucial conversations that I've ever read in my life.
Okay.
And as long as the end goal is to seek truth and become a better leader, there should be no pain. What?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because it's just information. It's new information that I didn't have before. But you, and I'm not trying to bust you, but because most people respond that way. Most people are hurt by truth. And I think as a leader, it's our responsibility to really, well, why? Why did that hurt me? Right? Do that emotional work to find out, because if that's your response, if getting truth, if you have pain associated with truth, guess what? Right? The culture of your feedback loop is, hey man, give me feedback, which is code for tell me I'm a great leader. Right? That's what folks, a lot of times what they really mean, or even when they receive in the commander's guidance and in writing and all this stuff, however they present it, what they'll do is, dude, I've seen this, so I'm not blowing smoke. Mm-hmm. They will come up in their own mind with defensive points on why those bullet points aren't true.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. They will build their own case, their own Fort Knox, their own emotional Fort Knox. Well, this guy, he just misunderstood where I was coming. Right? I have seen that 1,000 times.
Okay. So as if to characterize each of those inputs and put them in a frame that's maybe not as hurtful, or maybe not as, you put a caveat around it so that you can absorb it. I mean, is the pain a good thing? Like when you sense something where maybe you're not reaching the mark as a leader, I mean, where does the emotional intelligence fit in?
Well, so dude, in my opinion, your emotional intelligence allows you to receive it or not receive it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So again, if you associate pain, see, for me, I seek it out. Like, it's like jujitsu. If I'm doing a move wrong, tell me I'm doing the move wrong. I don't want to continue like, I want to protect my white belt status, and I want to, you know what I mean? Like, no, like for me as a learner, I value feedback. Like, dude, like there's no pain for me. Like for me, it's pleasure. It's like crack. I'm addicted to, I don't say addicted, because that's also inappropriate emotional, a lack of boundaries. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying I don't want to say I'm addicted to that, but for me, it's a positive experience when someone says, well, Noble, so this is a way. So now I'm going to give you a couple ways to approach this. So, hey, Drew, during our last command and staff meeting, as at one of your battalion commanders, can you, I want to understand where you're coming from. Totally safe. You don't feel threatened. Mm-hmm. You don't feel attacked. You don't feel, hey, Colonel Stedman, hey, this last command and staff, when you said this, I just want to better understand where you're coming from. Can you just unpack that a little bit for me? I'm not sure if I'm 100% on what you were saying there.
Yeah.
And now I'm genuinely seeking to understand. And now I could be like, oh, okay, now that totally makes sense. Or I could be like, okay, so, hey, sir, so can I do you mind if I ask you a couple questions about that?
Right.
Safe, I'm getting your permission.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Do you
Right.
mind if I ask you a couple questions? Hey, absolutely, Colonel Gibbons. What do you got for me? Oh, okay, sir. So, okay, so thank you for kind of helping me, unpack that, your commander's guidance there. Um, so knowing that your medal is this, right? Your command priorities are 1, 2, and 3. Can you just help me understand, how does what you just unpacked for me fit into your 3 main commander's guidance points, right? Can you kind of help me make that? So, and you're kind of seeing what I'm doing here. It's all through questions.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all through
Yeah.
questions. Now I'm taking you where I want to take you, right? So I've got a point where I'm trying to, I want you to see, but I also, there could be some area that I may not fully understand
Yeah.
too, right?
Sure.
Because you have a different perspective, obviously, than I do as a battalion commander, your brigade commander. You've got a much macro perspective of the quote unquote battlefield than I do. And so, but my point is, by asking strategic, intentional, and tactical questions, that's a lot less threatening to people than just saying, "Hey, Colonel
Yeah.
Stedman, you were completely jacked up
Yeah.
at your last staff meeting."
Yeah.
Now, here's the
Right.
deal.
Right.
Here's the deal. That's a lot quicker, but it doesn't develop either one of our thought processes.
Sure, sure. Or starting with, can I give you some feedback? Whether going down or up, right? Like you hear feedback and it's like defensive, like you're kind of ready to, to spar, right? Yeah, this is an inquisitive approach to going about it, and that can be important for people because saying, can you help me, sir? Can you help me understand this? Is a lot easier. It's a lot lower threshold to get over than, sir, I need to give you feedback about how you're a bad leader. you know, it could be, it's a lot easier for junior leaders to maybe bridge that gap, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. The other
Yeah.
dynamic too, Drew. So in coaching and mentoring your team, your leadership team, so to speak, on how to provide effective feedback that's safe, appropriate, respectful, and professional and stuff. The other
Hmm.
piece of that, so that's one big big piece of that. Now there's other questions that you can ask. I got a lot of those questions and stuff, a lot of ways to kind of coach that and that kind of thing. But another thing is to mental, again, this is where emotional intelligence comes in, is do the emotional work behind receiving feedback, period, for you. Because, okay, you could do one side of, okay, I've prepped my team. The only kind of feedback I'm ever going to get going forward, let's, again, in fantasy land, right? Just is safe, and it's going to, non-threatening, all this stuff, right? So, okay, took care of that. Well, the other half of that coin is, you got to prep yourself. Like, are you ready to receive safe, appropriate, professional, constructive feedback?
Yeah.
Right? Are you even mentally and emotionally prepared to receive that? And this is my sign. One of my red flags of someone's emotional intelligence is, again, assuming the feedback is all those things I said: safe, professional, appropriate, respectful. If the immediate response is defensiveness, that's a sign of low EQ for me.
Okay. Okay. So if they get back on their heels, they're not ready.
Nope. And dude, I can't tell you how many people I've had. No, but just give me the truth, man. Give me the truth. And I know, based on watching them and their emotional intelligence, they are actually wanting to just tell me, no, but just,
Just
can you
get it.
just tell me I'm a good leader? Tell me I'm the
Yeah.
man. Tell me I'm the woman.
Yeah.
Tell me I
Yeah.
got my poop
Yeah.
in a group. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. This goes in line with a conversation I've been having with a really good friend of mine about this, and she said that it helps to have this conversation if you can place the reason for it, or place the motivator or the driver somewhere else. So if you can keep the unit, if you can keep the nation's security, if you can keep the greater army as your motivator, right? Like, a leader, you need to hear this feedback because our unit deserves great leadership, right? You place the ideal outside of the conversation between these two leaders, and it takes on a whole different meaning then. Like, I'm doing this, I'm having this conversation not for you or for me. I mean, partly we're going to grow, but the unit needs you to stop leading in this way so that we can be more effective, ready, and lethal, right?
So excuse me. So yes, which one of the other reasons why people, I would say, I would almost argue most people have a very tough time with receiving feedback is because their identity is their rank, is their position, is what they do. And they can't separate their identity from this role or position. And so it's immediately any kind of feedback, constructive, positive, safe, not safe, whatever, is a threat to their core value as a human being.
That's right. It was Colin Powell, right? Like, never let your ego get so close to your position. Then when your position goes, your ego goes with it, right? And one thing that I've learned in recent years is that when you walk in a room, that rank precedes you. It's first thing on your chest. It's first thing you see. You win every argument in your command, right? 51% of the vote. You can walk in, decide, and walk out, and nobody can say anything essentially. So how do you break that down so that you bring out the most in the team, right? The most effective. But yeah, that identity. Are you that rank first? Are you an emotionally intelligent leader first? Are you an enabling leader? Are you a coach? All those things mash up. So let me ask you then. So you mentioned in the video, and I want to ask you about the 360 movement here also, because it's an incredible initiative. But I want you to explain that in a second. But on one of the videos you shared that I saw this week, you talked about authentic leadership and finding your own voice, kind of as a response to this journey that you're on about emotionally intelligent leadership. So what should we do with all of the stuff that gets thrown at us, including the military leader, right? Like, I'm putting out content and podcasts, and we have leaders that share insight. So how can people be discerning with that input and still find their authentic leadership voice?
Excellent. So excellent question. And yeah, one of the things, so in that video that you saw, I think it was on my Facebook page, that I'm going through, I am going through. So I'm probably in the beginning of my third quarter, right, of my life. And what's crazy is, because I have never been aware of emotions and feelings and all that stuff, and because I'm a recovering people pleaser addict, I took everything that West Point told me, that all the books that they told me to read, that the colonels and generals and E7s and sergeant majors and first sergeant, all these people in the 82nd, in the different organizations I've been a part of, I took what they told me as the gospel. The gospel according to West Point, the gospel according to the 82nd, the gospel according to whatever, right? These different organizations. And now, as I'm becoming more and more emotionally healthy and aware and self-aware, I'm realizing, snap, what's my definition of leadership? How does Noble define it? Because in the past, I would say, well, the definition of leadership is, I'd bust out Schofield, I'd bust out not Schofield's definition of leather. That's the old school. I'd bust out some patent quote, or I'd bust out some quote I learned from West Point, or because that's the societal approved leadership, or John Maxwell quote, or Jim Collins, or whoever, right?
I'm guilty. I do that. Yep, I'm guilty. Yeah.
And so boom. So after all this emotional growth, emotional journey, emotional healing, and this whole process we've been through, and I was in the middle of reading Above the Line by Urban Meyer, and he's got a couple really neat. He's a big football coach. He just retired, I think, and so he's got all these neat, very simple but effective leadership tools that he's used and developed and stuff. And it just hit me, because it was my first real leadership book. I'm a crazy reader, but it was my first, kind of quote unquote textbook leadership book that I had read in the middle of the emotional journey that I'm on. And I'm like, and it just hit me like a Mack truck. I'm like, well, what's my leadership philosophy? What are my leadership tools and systems? And like, I can recite to you MDMP and the OODA loop, and I can, op order. I can recite all these other tools that have been handed to me. But how, like, what is based on my strengths, my weaknesses, my personality, my experiences, my heart, my love languages, my worldview, right? All this, my biblical, I'm a Christian. So what might, biblically, like, what is Noble's definition of leadership? And that has really caused me to do some soul searching. And here's something else that most people, many, many, many leaders do not take the time to do, which I feel is one of the most powerful leadership tools, in my opinion, is reflection time. How often do you intentionally sit in a room in your favorite chair, locked in the room by yourself, and take, heck, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, and just
15
reflect?
seconds. I can tell you right now, the answer is zero. And I think I can speak for, if there's any, folks, listening to this, theirs is probably zero too. And it's only gotten worse recently with how much we can get connected to, right?
Well, and here's the other reality is the higher you go up, it's like the less time you have, right? More, and here's the irony of baller leadership, right? Of the higher up you go, the irony is more people actually own you, right? Because now, of course, the other way to say it is, well, I'm responsible for more people, right? That's one way to say it. But the other way is, dude, you're owned by a whole lot more people, right? You just got a greater responsibility, right? Great, da da da. And so pretty soon, your personal time becomes less and less. And in my opinion, so you just, and I appreciate your transparency, Drew, that is dangerous for a leader to get to a spot where you are not, feeding yourself. Now, I'm not saying that you're not, obviously you're growing, clearly you're a hardcore grower and learner. So but I feel like one of those key parts of emotional intelligence to continue to grow and find your own voice, back to answering your question, is you have to schedule in reflection time. You have to.
Yeah. When you said feeding yourself, because those resources and other people are feeding you, but what you're talking about is the aspect of you providing, the input for yourself to digest, right? You feel something, you hear something, and then you take it down to its core elements. Why do I feel this way? Why do I care about this? Why is this an emotional touch point for me?
Do you even know your own voice, Drew?
Yeah,
Would you
yeah,
even know your own voice if you heard yourself talking, right? In your, what I'm saying, in that quiet time, in that reflection time?
yeah, yeah,
Or is it just like, oh, this is, FM 10 10-1, whatever. Like, it's just all you're being, or is, oh, this is Simon Sinek, or this is my command. Like, yeah, but what are you saying? Right.
yeah,
And then for those of us with faith background, like, what's God saying to you? So if you're not taking that reflection time, you're not getting input from yourself or from God, right? If you've got a faith background. So I feel like that's a critical point. And schedule it, right? Schedule it and make it a non-negotiable, man. And I would even recommend 5 to 10 minutes a day, right? And a buddy of mine, an SF guy, taught me this, and I think it's powerful. 5 minutes a day, and then you can do like 30 minutes for the week, or an hour for the week, whatever you feel like you can fit in. But 5 minutes for the day. Close the door, lock it. 5 minutes, set the alarm. And he called it a RAP session, RAP. Review the past, analyze the present, plan for tomorrow. Review the past, analyze the present, plan for tomorrow.
yeah,
Right? There's 1,000 different ways to
yeah,
do it. That just
yeah,
one little system. Take 5 minutes, but just reflect. Right? What am I thinking about today? What's on my heart today? What did I learn about leadership today? What did I learn about being a good follower today? What did I, you know what I mean? There's
yeah,
1,000 little systems that you could do. I love your idea. I think it was a post or something where you had your 3 questions that day, right?
yeah,
Just taking that time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, lock yourself in the room, reflect. Journal is also part of that, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Right,
Journaling.
right. Okay. Okay. So where do you bring this down to then? I mean, it's really what you're identifying is your leadership DNA, right? What are the things that are yours and yours only, fed by other things, but what is your core? So how do you whittle that down? I mean, are we talking about a leadership statement? Are we talking about a philosophy, or how do you know when you're there?
Excellent question. So So I'm going to tell you a fun game I like to play. This may not be a positive thing, but I like playing it. But I like asking people, hey, Drew, tell me your story, right? If I met you at the gym or whatever, if we got a few minutes to chat, right. Drew, tell me your story, right? And a lot of times I'll get, well, what do you mean? Like, oh, no, just tell me about yourself. So I won't even lead you, right? Oh, well, just tell me like post-college, or I want to see where you start.
Yeah.
I want to see where you start. And then I'll let you go, right? Let you go. And then I like to ask, hey, Drew, what are some of your core values? And what I want to see is, does your story line up with the core values that you told me? Because the reality is, you will have told me your core values in your story, and I will be able to assess whether or not they actually line up, right? Because what I found in a lot of leaders, they say, so again, this is emotional intelligence. Intellectually and maybe emotionally, they want their core values to be, my faith, my family, da. Listen, if you don't make your family a priority, that's what I tell people. Show me your financial budget and your time budget, and I'll tell you what your actual core values are.
Wow.
Well, no, family's important to me. And you see them 15 minutes a week? No. Family's not important to you.
Yeah.
That kernel and your rating is what's really important to you. Your family is actually not important to you, right? Because your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you say, right? Cheesy quote, but it's true.
Right. Okay.
So anyways, that's one thing. The other thing too is so that's one little thing.
So
I like
your story, then your how you define yourself, your story, like how you see yourself is one aspect of that, right? Okay.
Yeah. So your core values, right? Your actual core values, not what you want them to be, but your actual ones. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's helpful to do a time budget and a financial budget. And well, there's another one too, a habit budget, right? Write down your habits.
Yeah.
That's another one too, right? So the other thing too is absolutely, I feel like, so I've got a mission statement. So my mission statement, to positively impact millions of people for the kingdom of God, to positively influence the influencers, to help the next generation be patriotic world changers, to love the Lord their God with all their heart, mind, soul, spirit, and body, and to help hungry people identify and pursue their purpose in life. That's my mission statement. It's a kind of a fivefold mission statement. And it's been a process. It's taken, and I've got a video on that too, on kind of how I developed that and the importance of a mission statement. But here's the thing though, again, does that accurately reflect your life? It's one thing to come up with this cool. So one thing I would say is it's a process to come up with your mission statement. So it's not gonna sit down 5 minutes, boom. Now, I think it's cool to start that way. Go ahead and write one out and then now kind of play with it, massage it, mold it, shape it, over the course of your life. But just kind of ask yourself, does this mission statement, now look back over the course of a year, 5 years, 10 years, does this mission statement accurately reflect not what you want it to be, but does it accurately? Now, obviously you can include in there what you want it to be as well. But, and then once you have that, once you start to develop that, you really got to, now where is another kind of DP decisive point is how much of your life are you going to make a part of your decision-making process your mission statement? Is it just going to be, because what most corporations do in my executive coaching stuff, it's a quote on the wall. It's, well, here's the commander's intent. Here's but nobody knows it. If I went to ask the E3 on the ground, hey, what's the battalion commander's intent, or the brigade commander? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what's for lunch. You know what I mean? Like, they you know what I mean? Or the employee, the janitor, or you ask them, hey, and they'll give you 10 different answers for the company mission statement, right? So, but is it a guiding core principle for how you make decisions going forward?
Is it the first thing you talk about when you have a meeting, or is it is that where the conversation gets going, whoever you're talking about in the organization? Yeah.
How about this one? This is money, right? This is another good assessment. Hey, Drew, what do you do? Don't answer that, because most people answer with their job.
Their job title, right.
Versus who they are.
Yeah.
Well, hey, what do you do, Noble? Well, man, I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a leader. I develop. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Versus, oh, well, my job is I'm the battalion commander in 1st of the 325.
Hmm.
Why do most people answer with their job title or their job position?
Hmm.
Right? Because a lot of times that is their identity.
Yeah, identity. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Wow. Well, I mean, so it's such a process to whittle down then and to strip that away and find out what you're. Is there like what resource do you recommend for people reading more about this to expose it?
I've got a zillion books on emotional intelligence that I recommend, and the thing that I recommend, and actually we are going to be starting a podcast called EQ for Entrepreneurs here very soon over the next probably month or so, and because we got tons of yeah, just lessons and all that kind of stuff. I want to encourage people, for those who decide to, hey, I want to take this on, is it's a process. Growing your EQ is a process. It is not an event. It takes time, and a lot of times I will tell you, it feels like, so speaking about feelings and emotions here, which again is just is funny and ironic coming from me, airborne ranger, infantry jump master guy, talking about warm fuzzy stuff. But here's the, again, it totally impacts the bottom line. So not only in the military but in business as well, the warm fuzzy stuff directly impacts the bottom line. A lot of times it feels like 3 steps forward and 2 steps backward, but that is also a sign that you are doing it right. So don't be discouraged by, well, man, I'm feeling bad about this, or I'm having some negative emotions or feelings. That's okay. Give yourself the space and grace to go through that journey and feel those emotions and identify those emotions. So, because here's the other thing too, so a huge piece of this real quick thing is, um, the brain is a master filer and organizer. And if you have emotions and feelings bebopping around your being like a 45 hollow point, and it's not named or identified, it's going to do damage in you. And it's cute when you're 3 years old and 5 years old and you have these little emotions and feelings, and it's a little cute little furry monkey. But when I'm a recovering stuffer also, so I've stuffed my emotions and feelings my whole life. It's fine and froggy when you're 5, but when you're 45 and you're a brigade commander or a division commander, and or a VP of a company or a CEO of a company, and now that little cute furry monkey is an 800-pound gorilla, let me tell you, it is going to impact your leadership. It's going to impact every decision that you make at work and at home, in your business and at home. And so it's not sexy, but it's so worth, in my opinion, to do this work. So Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is a great book to start with. Another book that I'll throw out there is, oh man, these two are game changers, man. Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud, and Changes That Heal by Dr. Henry Cloud. I would say those 3 books are great starters. I've got a whole bunch more that would be games that have been game changers for us, but those are a few other ones that will absolutely get you going in a great direction for sure.
Yeah, yeah, sure. This is the emotional intelligence side is not something that military circles and conversations gravitate toward, but I think it's an important underpinning. I mean, you're hitting it on the head, and you're not saying anything that anybody doesn't feel in some level. Like even the most toxic, ego driven, narcissistic leader, that's there are feelings that manifest there, and even becoming aware of those can be insightful for those for those types of leaders. Man, we can spend like an hour like talking about this. I know. What? Okay, so talk to me about 360 movement. Like what are you doing? How are you coaching? How are you impacting people lately?
So the mission of the 360 movement personal growth tribe is to change the world by changing your world, by changing you, through reaching the world, by restoring brokenness, empowering leaders and influencers, affirming gifts, strengths, talents, and superpowers, cultivating deep roots, harvesting long-lasting legacy fruit. So for us, it is a leadership approach from every single big rock in someone's life, from all 360 degrees of someone's life. So it's not just, am I technically and tactically proficient, but they don't want to follow you in silent prayer, right? Your soldiers don't want to follow you in silent, but man, you're God's gift to an M4 or to you know what I mean, to a war, right? But everybody hates you, right? Again, which impacts performance. So for me, because and here's kind of how it kind of evolved or started is, you know, I've seen a lot of people that are financially successful that are not family successful. They're professionally successful, but they're not personally successful. And for me, again, I love the Lord. I want to be successful, and an example, a good example in every area of my life, not just, oh man, I'm a great business guy, or I'm a great dad, but we're eating ramen noodles, or like, I want to be a good example in every area. Like, man, if my faith, and I believe that, you know, God created this big ball of mud roll on, like, why can't I be successful in every area? And so we have created content, you know, interviews, podcasts, experiences to help people grow in every area of life, that are serious about growing in every area of life, not just, you know, not just in their job, you know, not just in their profession.
Yeah, that's okay. So how do you connect with folks? Is it a personal coaching, individual calls? I know you have the videos and Facebook page and all that.
So we put out a lot of content in the 360 Movement Personal Growth Tribe, and from there, we have done a number of webinars. Probably, man, over the last couple of years, Drew, we've probably had 1,000+ people attend, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
attend
yeah.
the different events. We've had different speakers in on emotional intelligence, on flow, the concept of flow, building your
Hmm.
story brand by Donald Miller. I had one of his consultants speak for us. The chief growth officer of the Flow Research Collective spoke from a book called The Rise of Superman, which is an amazing book. Again, emotional intelligence, business guys, real estate. Like, I've done them. We've done seminars and stuff every couple months on, we started one on leadership. Then we did one on work-life balance. Tell me that's
Hmm.
not relevant.
Yeah,
We did
right.
one on assets, business, finances, and real estate, business investments in real estate. We did one on developing leaders, one on relationships, one on, you know, anyway, so lots of different topics that are very important, in my opinion, in developing the whole person. Again, be before do, who before do, not just here are the 5 steps you need to do to become a successful leader.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. Can folks plug into that? How can they get into the content, or is it?
Absolutely. So, you know, it's all housed within, I don't have the gift of administration. So that is not a skill of mine. So I created that Facebook group, the 360 Movement Personal Growth Tribe. And, you know, for anyone that joined it, there's a number of hashtags that are really popular. So you can do hashtag EQ. We do a lot on emotional intelligence. We do hashtag keynote. If you do hashtag keynote, I've got a Google document that has multiple tabs on there from all of our different events with
Mm.
our previous speakers. They're like mini TED Talks,
Hmm.
previous speakers,
Okay.
book lists, leadership lists, relationship book lists, podcasts, all kinds of great content.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Can folks go to Facebook and try to and request an invite for that, or? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll put a link in the show notes for sure then, and send that out. Um, so, I mean, you and I, we spent some Waffle House mornings till 3 a.m. doing exactly this right here. I do want to wrap it up here in a second, and this is just version one of many versions. I think I want to ask you about mentorship. You know, at another time, I want to ask you about mastermind groups. I want to ask you about, you know, surrounding yourself, you know, with the you know the right people to feed this this clear version of who you are as a leader, right? So, I mean, there can be power in who you surround yourself with in order to give yourself the the right view and the right growth as a leader. But also, then how do you build your tribe, right? Who do you invest in? How do you determine who to invest in to apportion your time? Because we're all, we are all busy. All the time is it's competitive. So, but who is worth investing in? And so how you organize that. So it's part of the mentorship conversation. And so there's lots of stuff, dude, tons of stuff to talk about. So I'm gonna leave you. So I'm gonna leave you an invitation here to invest in everyone listening on the podcast here. Like, so if you can deliver one insight to everybody listening right now, like a home run takeaway to make them a better leader, what would it be?
Excellent question. This is how I will respond with to your question. Every single person has superpowers, right? They've got gifts, they've got strengths. They, again, but just my background, I believe they were God-given, right? So you have these gifts. Don't be satisfied with just having them. Figure out how you can become intentional and deliberate at becoming world class in those gifts. Somebody needs those gifts that you bring to the table, that only you bring to the table. And I'm a cheesy quotes guy. One of my favorite quotes is from an author, I can't remember off the top of my head. Mike Murdoch, you are a solution to somebody else's problems. You are a solution to somebody else's problems. So don't just be satisfied with your gifts. How can you be, because this is another thing that I feel is not as popular as it has been in the past, is the concept of mastery. How can you become world class at the gifts that you have to have a greater impact or a deeper impact?
Man, that's good. That's good. Because we've all got it in us, and I think sometimes we're afraid to expose that, right? Exposed to deliver it. I mean, afraid to deliver it, afraid to take it to the next level, or we are satisfied with where we're at. We've been told on an evaluation, or maybe from one of those other, followers or superiors or bosses, oh yeah, you're good at this. I guess I'm good at that. I don't have to improve that, right? I don't have to become an Olympian in whatever that is. That's good. I appreciate that.
Well, and here's the danger. The danger is this is another thing I love. An exercise I love doing with people is write down the areas that you think you know the most about. Right? I love that. Right? Have them do a list. What are all the areas that you think you know the most about? And then here's what I love. I love. Those are the areas that you are the least teachable in.
Okay.
The areas that you think you know the most about, which goes back to our feedback conversation.
Yeah.
Right? What do you, dude, I'm a brigade commander. What are you talking about giving me feedback on leadership? Dude, I've been leading since you were born.
Yeah.
Like, you can't give me, right? Those areas, and here's the other thing, that the other danger behind the areas that you think you know the most about, not only are you least teachable in, but those are also good chance the areas that you're the most comfortable in. And another cheesy quote, on the heels of your comfort zone is complacency. On the heels of complacency is destruction. So be careful about the areas that you think you know the most about, and not even think maybe that you do know the most about. Be careful about those areas, because it's very easy to get comfortable and complacent in those areas.
Man, that is gold. Gold. I love it. I love. All right, we'll end on that for now, and then we'll wrap until the next episode. Noble Gibbens, I thank you for speaking into my life for the last 18 years, and you've done it out of the goodness of your heart, and just your willingness and your love of investing in others, and I appreciate that. And thanks for speaking to the podcast audience here. These are all folks who tune in on their runs, on their commutes to work, and are just looking to get better. And you have certainly done that for us today. So buddy, I can't thank you enough. You're always invited here on the podcast. Always.
Thanks a million, brother. Totally appreciate you, Drew. Thanks for the impact that you're having in everybody's life, brother.
All right. We'll talk soon for sure.